Hello guys and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to data science and Python programming. So in this class we are going to have a basic introduction to some statistical concepts. So in the past class we talked about what are statistics, and in this class we are going to talk about some basic statistic concepts. So basically the statistic concepts that we are going to cover in this class would be the sampling. And this is exactly what we are going to talk about. So let's jump right into it right now. So basically, it's possible, well, in statistics or in the world in general, there is a population. So let's say, for example, we want to study a certain population. We want to study, for example, the population of the United States. So to know, for example, if they love pizza. Once again, this is just an example. So we can ask each citizen of the US or each person who lives in the US if you love pizza by sending them a survey, by just asking them a question or whatever. So basically you can ask the whole population, but it's not possible to ask the whole population because first of all it's gonna take too much resources to monitor, control, and be able to ask the whole population this question if they like pizza, for example. And also because logistically it's almost impossible, and there is there will be no outcome. So basically you will not make more money by asking the whole population if they love pizza. So what exactly would we do? So instead of asking the whole population, we will ask a sample of the population. And this is where we have the difference between a population and a sample. So basically, as you can see here, the population will be the whole, all the US citizen, all the US population, and the sample will simply be a part of this population to who we will ask the question. So first of all, having a sample is way easier. So in this case, when you guys have a sample to who you will ask a certain question, it's easier to monitor, it's easier to control, it's easier to find a sample than to ask the whole population. Logistically, it's way easier, and usually the results are pretty much good. But there is a lot of different sampling techniques, and not all of them are perfect, but usually they work pretty well. So you have two types of sampling methods. So you have probability sampling method and no probability sampling method. Basically, the main difference between both of them, so probability and no probability, is that the probability sampling method will be based on selecting random people. So you will try to select the much random people as possible. And the no probability sampling method will not necessarily select random people always. So yes, you will have random people, but you will understand in the next few slides why it's not as randomized as the probability sampling method, which is based really on random people. Does it make the no probability sampling method worse than the probability sampling method because the people are not necessarily 100% random? No, but at the same time it's not the best. So usually experts prefer using probability sampling method because it's based more on random people, and it's really, it's more randomized than the non-probability sampling method. But once again, sometimes it's way more practical to work with non-probability sampling method, even if it's not the best, than to use the probability sampling method. So let's understand what is exactly the probability sampling method and what are all the sampling methods right here. So basically in the probability sampling method, we have four sampling methods. So we have the simple random samples, the systematic samples, the stratified samples, and finally the cluster sampling. The simple random sample is basically, let's say for example you have a population and of 1,000 people, for example, and you want to select let's say 10 people. You need 10 people for your sample. So instead of saying, let's say, I don't know, I select him, I will select really random people of those 1,000 persons. So I will select, for example, I will select really 10 random people. And this would be a really simple random sample. And this is really simple to do. So you just select 10 persons. The next one would be the systematic sample. It's pretty much well, it's not the same thing as the simple random sample. It looks like the simple random sample, but it's a bit more different. So let's say, for example, we have once again our population of 1,000 people, and we'll give a number to each person. So let's say, for example, each person will be number 1, number 2, number 3 until 1,000. Then from that moment, let's say, for example, you select the person number 5. And from this person, you say, okay, each plus 10 would be used inside of my sample. So in other words, you select person number 5. Then the next person in your sample would be the person number 15. So you'll take the person number 5, 15, 25, 35, 45. So as you can see in the picture here, you will select the person number 5, here person 25, 15, 25. And it's gonna be the exact same jump each and every time. For the stratified, so this is for the systematic sample. As you can see, it's not really complicated. So the next one would be the stratified sampling. This one is a bit different. So once again, it's based on random people, but you want to, let's say, for example, you want to have a clear, how you say it? You want to have a clear representation of each population inside of your sample. So let's say, for example, you have once again your population of 1,000 people, and you have 200 people who wear a green t-shirt and 800 people who wear, let's say, a blue t-shirt. So what you will do, you will select 2, and you need a sample of 10 persons. So you will select 2 persons who wear a green t-shirt, and you will select 8 persons who wear a blue t-shirt, just to be able to represent properly each population inside of your sample. So you will not select just random people in this population, because let's say you have 5 persons who wear a green t-shirt and 5 persons who wear a blue t-shirt. This will not be representative of your population, because you have way more persons with a blue t-shirt. So in this case, let's say you select 8 persons with a blue t-shirt, but you will select random people inside of this population of 800 people with a blue t-shirt. So basically, the stratified sample is really selecting people, well, the right amount of people in each group. So basically, if you have a bigger group of people with a blue t-shirt, necessarily you will select a higher proportion of people in the group of people who have blue t-shirts. So this is for the stratified sample. The last type of sample that is in the probability sampling method would be the cluster sampling. And basically, this method is really, well, involves dividing the population into subgroups. And each subgroup would have similar characteristics to the whole sample. So in other words, instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly select entire subgroups. So basically, what does this mean? It means you will work with let's say you have your population of 1,000 people once again. And this population, you will divide it into groups of, let's say, 5 people. So instead of selecting 1 person, you will select a whole group of 5 people. So it's like the random sampling, so the simple random sample. But instead of working with 1 person, you will work with small groups. So basically, this would be groups. So this is for the probability sampling methods. As I said, those methods are really into random, so you work with random people, and as those are really the most used by experts, because they are more representative of the population, and you will have more representative numbers in general with those sampling methods. So the second type of sampling methods would be the non-probability sampling method. And in this case, as I said, this one is not, it's a bit different from the sampling method, because you will work with people, not who you know, but that are more accessible to you. So basically, you will select the people with who you will ask, or to who you will conduct the survey, or whatever you want to do. So your study, let's say you want to study people who love pizza. So you will decide to who you will ask the question. So let's see those four sampling methods. So first of all, we have the convenience sample, which is the first one right here. Then we have the voluntary response sample, the purposive sample, and finally the snowball sample. So first of all, we have the convenience sample. This one is, well, the simplest. Basically how it works, it's pretty simple. It's, imagine you and you need a sample of 10 people, and you don't select random people, you just select people who you know. So in this case, let's say for example you have friends, and this is way more convenient for you to ask your friends to fill up the survey than to go and ask some strangers somewhere. So basically this is the convenience sample. So you will ask, let's say for example, your friends, your 10 of your friends, and you have your sample of 10 people. And here we go, you have, well, you have your sample and you conduct your study just with your 10 friends. But let's say, for example, the 10 of your friends like pizza. Once again, it's not representative of the whole population because once again, you controlled the sample. So this is why it's not always a good thing. The second thing would be the voluntary response sample. This one is pretty much as the convenience sample, but instead of asking your friends, you will ask, well, you will ask people to answer, well, with surveys and everything, you will ask people to volunteer to respond to your sample. So basically you, let's say, come somewhere, you drop your survey, and people come and fill up your survey. Once again, this is really limited, and this is not really random and representative of the whole population, because let's say, for example, you're at the university, you come at your campus somewhere, you sit down, you put on your survey. You will not necessarily have access to the whole population or to a representative sample. You will have people, let's say, from one department who are studying at that department at that university, who will majorly answer your survey, which is not really representative of the whole population. It's just representative of the department where you conducted the survey in question. All right, so this is for the voluntary response sample. Then after that, we'll have the purposive sampling. So this method of sampling will simply involve the researcher using their judgment to select a sample that is the most useful to the purpose of the research. In other words, you select the people to who you will conduct the research. So once again, this is not representative at all, in my opinion. Once again, of in this case, if you wanna stay as random as possible, this is not representative at all. Why? Because once again, the researcher will select the people who, for him, are fit to conduct the research. So let's say, for example, you want to look for people who, I don't know, love pizza. And the researcher wants to have a positive, let's say, for example, a positive answers in his I don't know, his survey. So he starts asking people who he knows love pizza to answer his survey. So once again, the results will not necessarily represent the population in general. So basically, purposive sampling is just, well, it could work in some cases, in cases that you really need some exact people, you need subjects that fits certain criteria. But if you want to stay as random as possible, it's not the best way to conduct a research. This is the third type of non-probability sampling method. And the last one would be the snowball sampling. So in this case, you will do the exact same thing. So it's gonna be, the way it works, it's like convenience sampling, but just with a snowball effect. So let's say, for example, you ask 2 of your friends to answer your survey, and you ask your friends to share your survey with some other people. So your friends will share your survey with people who will share your survey with other people, etc. So basically, as I said, it's like a convenience sample, but just with a snowball effect. In some cases, this could be really effective. So let's say, for example, you are studying you are studying a certain community somewhere in a country, and you know just one person inside of this community. So maybe this person, you can ask the person to fill up your survey and ask this person to, share, for example, this survey in his or her community. And in this case, you will be able to conduct your study on this community in general. Once again, this is not necessarily representative of of the community, because it's maybe representative of the community in a certain place. So for example, you are studying, I don't know, you are studying population of people who wear a blue t-shirt in the United States, but you are conducting your research, let's say, in New York City. So you ask someone to fill up your survey and since you don't know people who are wearing blue t-shirts, so this person who is wearing a blue t-shirt will simply like hand your survey to other people who are wearing blue t-shirts. Once again, this is just an example for you guys to understand. So in this case, it could be representative, but until a certain point, and it's not like the best way to represent, to represent and conduct a random study, to represent the population in general, and to conduct a study. So this is for the sampling methods that exist. So as I said, you have 8 of those sampling methods. You have 2 groups of sampling methods. You have the probability sampling method and the non-probability sampling method. To understand the difference between both, the first one is really randomized. So you ask some random people and you work really with random people, which is more representative of the population in general. And the second one would be the non-probability sampling method, which is not necessarily worst, or which is not necessarily, well, it's more efficient and way easier to do, because you will ask, for example, friends, you will ask people who you know. But once again, it's not necessarily representative of the whole population. It could work, it could bring you numbers. Once again, those numbers are not necessarily exact. So that's it for this part of the course, guys. Right now, you know the difference between all the sampling methods, and see you all in our next class.